Hello, my Facebook family. Can you hear me? Hey, you guys, as you're coming on, if you have a problem hearing or seeing anything, let me know in the chat. Well, happy Good Friday, my Homework family. I am so excited about today's guest. I'm excited about celebrating the resurrection power of Jesus Christ in all kinds of forms because, it's not just about us looking at the cross and this person that lived, we believe, divinely over 2,000 years ago, but it's also about us incorporating it in our own lives. So I need you guys to come on. I know you're not used to seeing me on Friday, but for the next several days, the beginning of April, we are celebrating 7 days of resurrection praise. In fact, that just says 7 day. I just recognized that. We're not 7 Day Adventists, but it doesn't matter. 7 days of resurrection praise is what we're celebrating. And here's the cool part. Praise does not have to come in a 5-piece team on a stage, nicely color coordinated. And it doesn't have to come with music. And it doesn't have to come with a lot of laudatory language. It literally means to magnify God. And we magnify him in our lives. And do you even know our testimony of coming out of our own grave clothes and coming out of our own situations, as well as our testimony of victory and the easy street in the seasons we have it. Those are all examples of praise. So although during this Res Praise Week, we will have opportunities of musically having guests and dealing with the arts and things of that nature, I really want you to concentrate on the message, on the testimony, because do you know that the same resurrection power as I needed him in Oregon, that brought Jesus Christ from the dead can bring you and dead and dying things alive. So today's guest is going to be talking about a very impactful story that she shared with me over 10 years ago. And I repeated it and I probably butchered it to death. But when I got an excuse to bring her on and try to bust through her very busy schedule, I brought her on. So listen, guys. Again, I know you're not used to being here on Fridays, and a lot of you may have your Good Friday shopping or dates or just relaxing. Hey, if it's 1 to 5, I know this replay is going to meet hundreds, if not thousands of people. So I need you to get on your phone and go to Hope More Facebook page, and I'm about to share it to my personal page because I know a lot of people still are sort of gravitating to who I am, but Hope More is spelled lowercase HOPE, uppercase MORE. I also have a YouTube channel spelled the same exact way because all you need is a little bit of hope to take greater steps, to expect more out of life. So that's what that whole alliteration, as well as physically seeing that hope is smaller than more, but it's so powerful. So go to Hope More Facebook page or to Hope More YouTube channel. I need you to share it, like it. Follow me, please follow me. I'm starting to ask people to follow me because I forgot, like, you follow one, you subscribe to the other. Follow and subscribe, and please make sure that you hit that bell in the YouTube channel so you can find out every time I come on. So listen, we're not going to be before you long. Do I sound like a Baptist preacher right now? We're not going to be before you long as I take a long time to bring our guest on. But I wanted to make sure that we are prepared and that this message goes out to as many people as can, because I'm not just saying it because it's my show. This message, if you would, this testimony has sustained me, and you'll find out a little bit more. So I have shared it to my page, and it's already going on my YouTube page. Share it to your groups if you have permission. I want to give a shout out to some groups that I did already tell and invite to come today. Spelman Class 96, Entrusted Women, Iconic Women, all of these wonderful people, and particularly women who are already empowered to understand that many times in a lot of our life trajectories, family, crisis, and things seems to stall or even kill our dreams, but there's always that resurrection power. So I'm going to bring on our guests. I'm so excited. I feel the love. I feel the Hope More family love, and all my visitors who are coming on and will come on in the replay. Please give your hands a great exercise by putting them together like this, faster, and give it a warm welcome to my guest, Christal Jackson. That exercise.
Hi, Hope. I'm trying my hands for you. It's so good to see you
It's good to see and be with you. Are you hearing me okay? I want to make sure. I can hear you. I just want to make sure you can hear. I can hear you. I just want to make sure you can hear me okay. I don't know if she's frozen. That's okay. So you can hear me well. That's okay. That's okay. And you can hear me. That I may just have to bring in my other production, which is called iPhone camera. We were hearing each other just fine, and then all of a sudden, I felt something was distorted. So let me sort of wiggle around. But while I do that, and you still can't hear me, can you? Okay, we're gonna do this. All right. So I'm grabbing this phone.
Hi, so my name's Christal Jackson, and one of my greatest honors is I was roommates with Hope at Spelman. I am an impact and equity advisor, and that simply means that I spend a lot of time helping people solve really, really complicated social problems. And I've done this work now for about 20 years. I'll talk more about how I ended up in this space, but I do believe I was indeed called to this work. And I definitely see God's hands all over it and direct me to this place. I'm originally from Houston, Texas, so I'm a Southern girl. I have roots in both Texas and Mississippi. And I think that also is complementary to how I go about doing this work and the heart that I have to do the work. So, really happy to be here on Good Friday.
You know what?
Are we having technical issues?
You know what? There must be nations that are about to be shook.
Tech is good when it works right.
Yes, it's gonna be nations shook when this goes out. I believe it. Can you still not hear me? Oh my. Un momento. You hear me?
I think it's trying.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
I can go out and try to come back on.
No, you're great. Oh goodness. Hey, you guys, if you are in the chat, please let me know if you can hear. Please let me know if you can hear. We were just testing this, and everything was working fine. So it is okay. Well, hopefully you can hear me. If you can hear me, I see that there's some people on. If you can hear me, let me know. Post a comment saying I can hear you, or just say I can't hear you. Help us out today, because I don't know what is going on. And oh man, so I don't think people can hear me because no one is responding. All right. Un momento, please. Un momento, please. Can you hear me? Let me know if you can hear me. Yeah, you can hear me. Okay, so then I know that it's not completely all on me, but that's okay because our special guest is coming back And this is not a flattering angle. You know what? I want to introduce you guys to a little bit about our guest, because she is amazing. And while she's getting back on and we're figuring out what's happening, I'm going to do something that I was enjoying watching before I come on. She's already given her introduction. Not only have we known each other since Spelman College when we were roommates and even prayer partners, we have so much in common, including the fact that we love the idea of supporting um, entrepreneurs, philanthropy, and women, particularly Black women. And so I'm going to sort of cheat a little bit, and by way of just sharing just a little bit more about Christal as she gets back on and make sure she's connected, I wanted to, yeah, here we go. I wanted you to check out, because we are cross branding here. She has a show that comes on Facebook as well that deals with women in impact. And she's just such a lovely person. So we're going to watch just a little preview of that. And again, it's Women in Impact. And I'm going to use that opportunity to figure out how to get her back on. Hallelujah. But thank you guys. So go ahead and grab your, it's happy hour most places. Go ahead and grab whatever you're going to drink on Good Friday. I know Jesus turned water into wine. You don't have to drink it though, but water or whatever. I may get some water too. We're going to make this happen.
I'm happy pre-Friday, Friday Eve. I'm so excited to join you today. My name's Christal Jackson, and I'm an impact and equity architect. And that basically means I help really amazing people on their journey to doing good in the world. And I thought this Women's History Month, I wanted to lift up the voices of women that I believe embody empathetic leadership. And today we have with us Miss Manuela Castellini. She is the founder of In a Perfect World. Hi, Manuela.
Hi, how are you?
It's so good to see you, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's early where you are, and I'm sure that our new lifestyles are let's see, I think
Hey, lady.
it works on the cell phone. I'm so sorry for this, but does this
Oh,
work?
okay. Can you hear me?
I can hear and see you now on the cell phone. I'll just hold my hand just like this.
You know what? That's what it is about. We can improvise in this season. If this is not a season of improvisation, and that wasn't what I had planned to do, and then the internet didn't want to work there, I'm like, that's okay.
It's
You know,
okay. You
that's
just have to
okay.
keep moving. Keep moving. I mean, this is indeed that season where we have to keep moving. I think we lost hope. Hi, Hope. Let's see, maybe. I think she's coming back.
Oh wow! I'm just gonna let you host this show. You guys are in on it. It's a switch. I'm gonna host Women and Impact. She's hosting Hope More. And this is all just like a practical type of joke. So you can hear me. You can hear me.
I can hear and see you on the cell phone. It
Okay.
could no. I'm in a rural town. It could be me, and I caution people all the time about bandwidth and internet capacity. So anyway, happy to be here. I am an impact advisor. I help people solve really stubborn problems. As I was saying earlier, I think a lot of it has to do with, well, one, I do believe I'm called to this work. And two, I do believe it has a lot to do with how I was raised in the South.
Oh,
And
wow.
yep, raised in a family where, caring for others was extremely important. And of course, first and foremost, taking care of family. But so I grew up and that's what I saw. And I feel really fortunate to have been able to make a career out of doing this, what I call good work. So thank you for having me, Hope.
Oh my gosh, Crystal Jackson. I know we are going to be not on here super long, but I hope you count my 30 minutes starting now.
I will start it now. I was like, 30 minutes, Hope.
No, and you know what? And she like a real 30 minutes too, not like a Pentecostal holiness 30 minutes, which is really an
No,
hour and a half. So
no.
you know what? This is just hilarious. That's why I know when I go back and hopefully edit this, I know that this is going to be hilarious to watch. So it may not be hilarious to be going through right now. But listen, light. All right. So listen, I wanted us to connect during this resurrection time because I have been thinking of people who had very practical moments, or let's just say more than moments,
Mhm.
situations in their life that, given a certain season, they could almost feel like they're dead and
Yeah,
dying.
yeah.
And you, and it's so funny because I know that was a while ago, the story that we're going to be talking about. And many of the people who know you and are familiar with your brand, they may have not even put you in the same category as anything talking about career resurrection. So
Oh,
this is not something about a scandal, guys, and rebranding. Olivia Pope didn't have to come in and swoop. This is about, and I'm going to cut to the chase because who knows how long I have with this camera as well as the lights and internet. This is about the idea that even when you feel like, she mentioned she's in a rural town, maybe both of our Verizon or internet connections are spotty because I'm in a rural town, but it's
yeah.
about like having a plan for your life and crisis turning it upside down, particularly as it
Mhm.
relates to ambition and professional careers. When you are, in particular, a woman,
Yeah.
more in particular, a single woman, and then on top of that, a Black single professional woman, that when family crises happen, often you are either the go-to person, and even if you aren't the go-to person, the expectation is that if someone around here may make a decision that may cost them time, promotion, an opportunity, you know, not necessarily your story, but it's often sort of like, okay, well, women leave the workforce all the time. We know that during this COVID season, we have
Yes.
women who are leaving the workforce, not because they want to, but they have 5, 3, 2 children, shoot, one, learning from home every day, hours at a time. So I think it's just very, very apropos to have you on Good Friday, which is
Mm.
sort of tongue in cheek. Because for those who are believers in Jesus Christ, Good Friday is when he died, but his death caused freedom. And so I'm giving my close at the beginning in case
I
this
love
is,
it because
but
that's just hope. But I mean, Hope, you touched on so many important things, right? I think um, the COVID moment is an opportunity, and I want to be careful how I say this because people are really struggling, and this is a hard season. So I don't want to in any way make it sound like it is easy and this is the moment where we should hit reset. No, this is hard. And people are leaving, women are having to leave because they're having to make the choices that are necessary for their family. And,
right.
when I started my career, I mean, many years ago, it's so funny how life is full circle, but I was so excited. I had my first sort of big job, my office. I had an assistant, and the phone rang one day, and essentially the woman that raised my mother, she's my biological great aunt, but she was the only grandmother I knew, had a stroke, and she was a very active, as far as we knew, healthy woman. But one morning she had a massive stroke, and that meant that I had to leave work. Of course, I'm the youngest and my mother's only daughter, and of course we're on our way to see and check on her. And sort of fast forward, the process and talking to doctors, and when he said to us, I remember it as clear as yesterday, and she's been dead now a good 15 years, but I remember him saying, well, she could be in this state 5 days or 5 years. And I looked at my mother, who was a few months shy of retirement. And she said, okay, well,
Oh,
I'm going to have to figure it out. Yeah. And so my mother needed to work a few more months to receive the full benefits of retirement. So it was no question as to what we were going to do. And I said, well, I'm gonna help you through this. We will figure this out. And that was a decision. But at the time, while it seemed hard, it was probably even harder for my mother, right? And even now, you fast forward many years later, I'm in a caregiving role now. My parents are now 76 and 81 years old. And when COVID hit, the first thing I did was I said, I have to figure out how to put them in a bubble because it was chaotic, right? And I remember speaking with a physician. I called a Black female physician when they first started talking about COVID. And I said, listen, this is confusing. What should I be doing? And she said, you need to take care of any underlying medical conditions that you have and keep your parents healthy. And so I knew then that meant keep them out of the hospital, right? And so I
right.
said, well, I didn't want to be like a lot of friends I had who were cross country trying to get back home to their parents, to help them. And so put my folks in a bubble, and I'm grateful they took their second shot. It's been probably 3 weeks
Woohoo!
ago, but the journey of caregiving for most women, and especially most Black women, it's an ongoing journey. And so, yes, it did cause my career to, and even coming out of that after my grandmother passing. In fact, she passed night that she was being transported to come live with us. She passed away. She was supposed to leave the next morning. She passed away that night. But now that was a like an 18-month process. It was a several months, right? So, and she wasn't even in the state that we were in. So that meant we were traveling, right? But
Oh,
again,
wow.
it was a no-brainer that family came first. And I just sort of figured I just kind of figured I would find my way. And, I wish I had some great story about, how I had this big revelation in the moment. No, it was actually a season where I felt like God was pretty silent, right? And it was truly a daily bread moment where you wake up every day and it's
Mm,
okay, well, this is what this is gonna look like. Because when you're carrying people and they're ill, there is no prediction, right?
right.
So you just sort of get up and you keep going. And I actually in that season, I'll say this: I do think that helped me as an entrepreneur now, right? Looking forward, because as an entrepreneur, oftentimes there's really no roadmap. And,
Yeah.
when you're developing your business or trying to sustain your business, every day could be different. And so I do think it gave me a sense of what I call mental toughness, resiliency,
I can see that, definitely.
so that you have, yeah. when I have to pivot, it's not as dramatic now. I'm okay, I'll make that pivot. And so I think for a lot of people in this season and coming out of this season, we're going to have, as painful as it is, be a little nimble when we in.
Yeah.
And trust, a daily portion. So
No,
I hope
really.
that sort of answers what you were looking for, Miss Hope.
No, it does. And I think it's interesting that you say, it was no question. Now, that was, day one. And I know you mentioned,
Yeah, no question.
yeah, no question, day one.
No question.
Mom is, retiring. She needs to enjoy that. Although I'm set up and I'm excited about what I'm doing, this is basically grandma or, auntie, great aunt, someone who you really love and care about.
Yeah.
So day two, I'm sure still buzzing. Month 3, and nobody's around. And as a caretaker of 276-year-olds who are recovering both from strokes, and my father also from a heart attack, and he's also had prostate cancer. So they hit all those buttons when we're talking about vulnerabilities. Caretaking adults is very similar to caretaking children at times physically. But it's there's a little bit more to have to manipulate.
It's physical. Yeah, it's physical and it's emotional, because now the people that took care of you, it's a role reversal. You are now having to take care of them. And so there is a moment of grief and some loss of you're not just having these moments of like, wow, things are different. They are as well.
Yeah.
And I say this to people who have children. If if your children know that I want to be careful how I say this. I was their priority. I'll say that.
Yeah.
And so again, it's now it's just a circle of life, right? And so it's sort of like the word says, if you honor your mother and your father, and of course there have been lessons on creating boundaries, and there are lessons on getting help. Can you hear me, Hope?
I can. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me, Hope? Okay.
I can hear
Yeah,
you.
I can. So I mean, I can. So there are, okay. So I mean, you have to even in this season serve with boundaries. I At 8 o'clock every day, my day is done and I'm off duty, right? And so I certain that 8 to 8, when I'm working and helping my parents, they have what they need, but it's understood at 8 o'clock, unless it's an emergency. I'm reading a book, doing calligraphy, talking on the phone, whatever the case may be. But that's when and that was a boundary I had to set, right? And so I do think being a leader and an entrepreneur, you have to learn how to set boundaries. And I remember someone saying to me, "Is it just cut and stone? Is it just cut and dry like that?" I'm like, "Yeah. If in order for me to be effective and caring and diligent and to do work I need to do, today I had to create those boundaries." And the beauty is, I think when you're caregiving, I use this in the case of my parents now, right? They still like a little freedom themselves, right? And I think you allow people to do as much for themselves as long as they can. So I hope these tips are helping.
No.
Yeah, I hope these tips are helping people think about journey, and then even still being in a place where you can find a meaningful career. I mean, and so Hope, this is the story I tell people when they ask me, why did you become an entrepreneur? Well, part of it was I needed flexibility. And I knew that. I knew I didn't want another experience like I had when my grandmother was sick that day. And my boss asked me, so, okay, so when are you coming back to work? And I just remember when he said it, I was like, you think I just said she had a massive stroke and we got to figure some stuff out. And he was like, okay, but like, when are you
When are you coming
coming back to
back?
work? And I thought, you know, I was just like, ooh, oh, and I that day said to myself, I never ever wanted to be in that position again, where I
Mm,
had to answer that question, say I'll be back Tuesday, but knowing that
mm.
by Tuesday her condition,
Could
um,
worsen.
would not have changed much. And I think about her in this season because she was not verbal at the end.
Oh,
And there's one thing about leaving a loved one, so you are their only advocate.
yeah.
So, her, because we hired people to be with her even while she was in the hospital. That they knew her, but they didn't. We knew her. We knew what that frown meant
Yes.
or what she preferred. Her preferences, right? And so, so even the of help, they all that they just would not intuitively know. And I felt that during that season, I was did no regret to this day. It was lonely. It was difficult. I did have moments, and I was very young, so I would talk to friends, and they'd be talking about their careers and how they're advancing at work, and they were getting ready to take this trip, and that wasn't my life,
Right.
and I
And you had to be
just
okay
sort
with
of
that.
owned that my life was. I had okay with it. I was like, oh, and I studied, and I just sort of accepted that this is where my life was right now. And one day it would possibly look different, but today this is what my life looked like.
Wow. You know what? I thank you so much for sharing, because every story of resurrection, I'm calling it, and it's not even true resurrection, right? Because you didn't die, but just a stalling of uncertainty that for some people right now, say in the COVID world, they are almost suicidal or are suicidal because they can't see how something's going to work out. And although you've always been a very balanced person, I could imagine that
Yes.
your career was important to you, but you've always been, I'm gonna get my sleep, I'm gonna take care of myself, I'm gonna work out. So
Yes.
it doesn't surprise me that in the midst of what's happening, that you were like, you had you had I could imagine you had the grace of God, but also probably some reserve, because you recognized that it was going to be crazy, you trying to hold on to that, help I'm calling her your grandma auntie, look after and help your mom, and
Yes,
also try to, like, oh, I'm going to take family medical leave for 5 days and then work next week. I mean, I just think that just is who you are. And so your resurrection wasn't just the idea that you stopped, what you were doing in another city and state, and to take care of an ailing and dying relative. Your resurrection and death was like, you even changed your whole concept of the type of way you wanted to make income. And you're like, I need to be an entrepreneur. But let's talk about that journey. And
I had to. Yeah,
well, we won't
I,
talk
I,
about that
I,
whole journey, but go ahead.
no, I said, and I had never desired to be an entrepreneur.
Wow.
I wanted to be a person that had a 9 to 5. I went to work and I had that life, and on the weekends I just, you have like I that was the life that I thought I would have, and that was the life that I wanted, and it just never panned out that way. And I just,
Isn't that
it just had to
funny?
go over it. Now, I have been moments where grass always looks greener.
Right.
And I will tell you, when I finally started companies and started spending time with people, that was their life, working 9 to 5. And I thought, they're not very happy.
Wow.
Right? And they were having a different, I just think, yeah, I had a chance to see it, but and I sort of realized, that's not what I thought that I thought it would be, right? And so, yeah, that's the journey, Hope. That's why I
What?
became an entrepreneur. It was to have flexibility, and I didn't even share. She wasn't the only one sick. At the same time, my aunt, who had no children, and my grandfather, who on that side of the family, my father's children were his only grandkids. They all became ill and died within 18 months of each other. And they were not in the same city. And, the
Wow.
lesson taught me so many lessons about getting all to make it easy for folks to help you. I'm grateful they all had resources that I could hire people to help me.
Yes,
But,
resources.
I still needed to be present
Yeah,
for them.
yeah.
Like, yeah, resources, yeah.
Yeah.
And they had lived in such a way that thankfully I wasn't like, oh, what am I going to do?
I know. How am I
There
gonna
were
pay for
people
this
I could
bill?
hire,
How?
but
Yeah. Well,
right,
listen.
that's what and I had to. I said, go ahead.
No. So the story that I definitely want to get in as my time is ticking away, because you guys go to CristalMJackson.com. You'll find out all you need to know. And I love the fact, and I always thought it was cool that your name is spelled very different. I've never met another Christal that spells their name Christal. And for those of you who may not think you're going to remember that, it's Christ all, but without an L, okay? CristalMJackson.com. She is an amazing entrepreneur. We're going to talk about some of the things that she's working on. And I'm going to probably have to just half truncate this story. But you said your I'm calling grandma auntie lived about 18 months after you had started caretaking. And okay, so and one thing I do appreciate having
Yeah.
76-year-old parents with health conditions that I tell people all the time, like, I'm not on death watch. I'm not on like, well, they any minute now, so I can have whatever next part of my life. I'm like, God, you're gonna have to show me how to make the best of where I am. And he's
Right.
been doing that. But your story about, and I call it how God or how purpose found you behind the makeup counter, has been a sustaining story to me as it relates to
Yeah.
finding or God exploring and sharing almost,
Yeah.
and that it looks like a coincidence, but we know it's not. So after the death, I think it was after the death of your grandma, and you decided to like do something with your time that included taking on a job at a mall. Now you went to
Did.
Spelman
I
and Duke
did.
for
I
grad
did.
school. What even
Yeah,
made you
I was.
think, well, let me hustle over here to the mall out of everything? All your experiences professionally. Why would you even be open to that?
Well, why would I even do it, right? Because it wasn't so much about the position as much as it was about having something to do different. And so I do think coming out of that grief, there's healing that has to take place. And I'll never forget, it was around the holiday season, it was approaching. And I love wrapping beautiful I like wrapping gifts and making them very pretty, super simple. And I was passing a Neiman Marcus and I said, oh, I wonder if they'll hire me for gift wrap. just, and I remember going in and filling out the application, and they said, well, we'll contact you if And they called and they said, yeah, we'd like to bring you on. She wanted on the sales floor. And I thought, oh, it's fancy. Okay. And I said, because I was like, well, I really wasn't trying to do all of that. I just wanted to go wrap the gifts in the back, right? With my two expensive degrees. And um and and so I started working in the gift shop. And lo and behold, I'm there for a few days. I'm approached by a woman that worked in cosmetics. She was a cosmetic manager, and she invited me to come join her on the cosmetics team. I'm paraphrasing. I was like, this is a lot. Listen, I just came here to wrap some gifts. I didn't
And you
come
weren't even
here
into
for
makeup like that, even though
a big
you.
career. But I thought, no, 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 that's exactly right. No. And I said, well, will someone train me on how to apply and all this? Yeah, you'll be trained. So I thought, okay, well, this could be fun. This could be cute. Lip gloss, lipstick. And so, I say yes, and I start to work there. And I was approached one day by a lady. She came to the counter, and I was waiting on her. She was someone else's client. She wasn't even a client per se. But she had on this very unusual necklace that said Jesus. It was in the Star of David, and the word Jesus. And I was fascinated, and as a believer, as a Christian, I was fascinated by that. And we started talking about it. And one thing led to another. She invited me to come explore an opportunity to serve. It turned into a job, but I'm fast. But it was a role that I dreamed or imagined for myself. And I tell you, in that moment, just like this season I'm in now, um, purpose finds you. But the revelation that I had this morning in my quiet time was, but purpose finds you when your heart's open. Yeah, right. I didn't go to Neiman's with a puffed up ego about,
Wow.
oh, I want to be the salesperson. And, first of all, what, I didn't have much to go work in a department store to going to grad school, right? I mean, like, I just wanted something to do. I just wanted to make pretty bows. And, you know, if we want God to use us, um, and whatever language you want to use, favor, elevate, whatever the case, but purge you when your heart fertile. And my heart had been broken. And all that I thought and imagined for, what my life would look like had gone out the window. Um, you buried the people who have been core to who you are, and you've loved, and then you lost them, and you lost your career path. So you lost what you thought,
Wow.
only to discover that God had something so much better in store. And that um, I believe that's what God's going to do in this season. That there has been, I don't know when, how, what, but I just believe those whose hearts have remained open, um, and whose hearts are fertile, because I do believe there has been some heartbreaking for all of us. It may look different
Yeah.
in this season. I mean, how can your heart not have been broken during COVID? And I believe that on the other side of this, for people, there's a new path forward for you. What that'll be, I don't know. But if he can find me behind a makeup counter, whose only ambition was to wrap boxes, other people's Christmas gifts, right? Surely he can find you wherever you are and wherever you are positioned.
Well, you know what, Crystal
He'll find you. You
Jackson?
don't have to worry about it.
I know my 30 minutes are almost up, even the grace period that I started as my 30 minutes is up. And I just realized because I'll give you a teaser, everybody in the audience, from the open door of the recently uh, um, transitioned executive director during the time of your volunteering to someone asking, do you want the job? And they didn't even know what your qualifications. It wasn't an offer. It was more so like, we need somebody. And then to hear your qualifications, like, whoa, like this came from a conversation with a woman that works at a counter. And then even there's so much more. So you don't have to make any promises. I'm not trying to lure you into something, but this story, please allow me to at least put a pitch in to do the movie about God will find you behind the makeup counter. Because like I've said to her every time we talk, like, girl, I'm trying to get the words and remember the story. I done put you in Macy's. I forgot about Neiman Marcus. I probably done lied half of the story. But what I do remember is what you just shared. You wanted to get out and do something, and it opened a door that has totally transformed not just your life, but impacted so many. In the closing time we have, and because I want people to hear about the resurrection, but you look at this beautiful face, you know there's resurrection. And again, you could find all out about her. But if you would share with my audience at least two of the or three of the things that you now are doing years later that sort of are great out branches from that counter makeup experience. And because I want them to see the glory of the resurrection.
Well, I for the past 10 years, I've hosted a gathering on Martha's Vineyard for impact leaders and people in philanthropy. And the goal was, or the objective was, one, it was never to create a gathering. That was not what I was intending to do. But I was just trying to create a safe space for leaders that cared deeply about our community. And after the first year, people were like, "Well, next year," and I'm like, "Oh, well, who's going to do it?" Right? And so that turned into 10 years.
Wow.
But we curated about $3 billion and help get people in shape to access those resources. But what I'm most proud of are the long-term connections we've made, that people in that space or in the space of impact have found people journey them throughout this work. Because impact work is, I think, heavy work, and it can be lonely. That's something that I've done recently. Pre-pandemic, wrote a book, Genius: Building Beautiful Things from Broken Pieces with Broken Pieces, and we are going to do a relaunch. Like everyone, COVID shifted all of our plans. So I'm excited about that story, and I'm sharing with your audience what I'm so excited about is with that book we offer a free, because I think there's so many people that want to do good and do well and possibly make careers out of it, but have no clue how to get started. And I think the first step is, you'll appreciate this, Hope, is understand your own impact. And I remember being a freshman at Spelman, and one of the assignments in the class was to write my story. And how smart we thought we were when we first got there, smart. And so I said, I'm just going to get my bio and edit that. And I remember turning it in, and the professor said, no, this is not your story. And what says, when you realize you were Black? When did you realize you were a woman? And those, I was like, woo, that's different than this little bio right here. But I do think that it's understanding your unique journey, and your journey is just as unique as your handprint. I do think that impacts. And so I'm excited about this next season of helping people understand their impact journey and their assignment. And let me say this, it doesn't mean you have to leave your great corporate job to have an impact assignment and do impact work. No, it does not mean that at all. And so I think people can sort of
um, the word I'm looking for, fulfill that desire to be helpful, and to do something meaningful and to leave legacy. I do think we all have an assignment.
And just so I make sure
Hope on this Good Friday over it.
well, just so I make sure that my audience heard the information correct, because you broke up a little bit. You were saying I'm offering, and I wanted to make sure they get it. And also, you guys look at my page, because I'll make sure I'll put that information up. So if you say it one more time, even any closing thoughts, because I so appreciate your time, and I'm mindful that I've already gone over.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Look, my little timer on my light went out. The book is Mosaic Buildings with Broken Pieces. It's at Amazon, Target, Barnes and Noble. But please head to my website at CrystalMJackson.com and sign up for a free course that I'm offering on your impact journey.
I signed up.
And I'm excited about helping people understand. Yeah, you did? Yeah. I'm excited about helping people understand what their personal impact journey is. I think we all have one. Hopi, I love you, and I am so grateful that you had me on here this Good Friday. This is such a treat.
Thank you for
And
coming.
I hope you and all of your listeners.
Yeah, thank you for
Yeah, I hope
coming.
you and all of your listeners have a wonderful resurrection week.
Oh, well,
You're
thank
welcome.
you.
I love
Love
you.
you too. Love you too. She's having to leave, but I just thank you so much for coming on. Thank you guys for joining us this Good Friday. Have a wonderful resurrection again, and I'll see you again tomorrow. We are every day, 5:30 p.m., celebrating 7 days of resurrection praise. And our last show will be on the 7th, but we still got other things. Today, we were talking about career resurrection, and we will talk about mind being resurrected, people who've had actually near death experiences, love being resurrected. That's right. You know, it's Hope More. I always got to bring that love angle in it. Health being resurrected. The one thing we probably won't be talking much about is financial resurrection. But as you already know, if your career and your journey professionally is impacted, so is your money. And I tell you, Christal is such a wonderful, wonderful spirit, and she's so humble. I hate that our connection with the audio wasn't as strong, because I hope you all didn't miss any of those nuggets. But understand this: God can find you wherever you are and to fulfill the purpose that He has in your life. And if your career and your income in particular is being touched and tested, be encouraged. Be encouraged. You can get up. You can get out of this situation, but not just by your own will and power. Thank God that we have an advocate. His name is Jesus Christ, and it's through His power that we get up. I love you, and I mean it. Have a wonderful Good Friday, and I'll see you tomorrow. And those of you who caught us on the replay, please comment below where you feel in your career that may be stalled, or you may even find yourself as like one of those millions of women who left the workplace because of needing to oversee their children's homeschool. Or maybe you're a guy who's just like, I'm in a deadbeat job. I want, even if you don't post it here, you to write down how you're going to engage life again, because there's resurrecting power. For you, you may have a PhD, but maybe for the holidays, you may want to consider going working at McDonald's. I know, after hearing her story, although I was working, I tried to get a Christmas seasonal job. And what I learned is that that's not for me, especially if I have to wear an elf hat. But I digress. You guys have a wonderful Good Friday. Thank you for your patience throughout the little stumbles. But like I said, I know this story must need to get out there and touch someone, because we had been prayed and nothing happened until I pushed go live. Well, that's okay, Satan. You ain't win this. Just like it may have looked bad on the Good Friday that we celebrate when Jesus was in the grave. 3 days later, He got up, and we got this show up and running. You guys have a wonderful Friday. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. God bless. God bless. God bless. Thank you, Darlene, Anita, and Chandrika. Love you so much. Thank you for supporting.